Back to my channel. So today I'll be showing you guys how to make this jumper with ruffle at the end. This romper, sorry. So the first thing I'm going to do is to fold my fabric into two. For this you will need about 2.5 yards of fabric or about 3 yards of fabric. So the first thing I'm going to do is to fold this fabric into two. So I'm going to start with the top part. So first thing, check after folding into two, check your bust measurement divided by 4, right? So the bust measurement I'm working with is about 44 divided by 4, that's 11, and then plus extra half an inch, extra 1 inch for seam allowance and half an inch for ease, because it's romper. If you want, you can add the half an inch for ease. If you don't want ease, then just work with your measurement plus 1 inch, right? Your bust measurement divided by 4 plus 1. So the next thing you're going to do is to measure your shoulder to waist. So the shoulder to waist I'm working with is 18, plus extra 1, which is 19. The 1 is for your ease. So I've marked that here. So this is going to be my shoulder. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to mark for my shoulder. The shoulder I'm working with is 16 divided by 2, that's 8. So basically I'm just drawing in my normal bodice, right? So mark armhole divided by 2, that's about 10. Mark it this way, and then I'm going to give it a curve here for your armhole. And then the next thing you're going to do is to come down here, mark your waist. So the waist I'm working with is 38 divided by 2, that's going to be 9.5. 9.5 plus extra 2 inches, that's going to be about 11.5. I'm going to add half an inch for ease to it, so that's 12. So it's going to fall in this way. So guys, the waist measurement divided by 4, right, plus extra 2 inches. Here is the bust measurement divided by 4 plus extra 1 inch. Then if you want, you can add half an inch for ease for both of them. That's extra half an inch for ease, for like if you want it a little loose on you. So I'm going to cut mine out now. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark 3 inches here. So this is going to be your neckline. So with the neckline, you can do whatever you want with it. So I'm going to come down by 4, because as you can see from the picture, it's a high neckline. So I marked 3 by 4 inches. That's 3 of width, 4 of length. So this is going to be my neckline here. And then from here, you're going to come down 1 inch here, 1 inch here, and then this is your shoulder slant and connect it here. So that's basically it for the front bodice. So guys, with the front panel, I traced out the back panel. So what I did is just basically fold another piece of fabric and then trace out the same width here, the same armhole, the same shoulder slant. Only difference is that at the back neckline, I'm going to come down by 1 inch here, and then come down 1 inch here, connect it this way, and then cut it out. So you see at the back here, I have my zip allowance, because remember this is a romper, it's going to have a zip at the back. So leave about 1.5 inches at the center back. So this is the back here. I'm going to split it into 2 now. So here I came in about 0.5 inch here. So I'm going to cut this out, and this is on the front panel, right? So I'm cutting this out. The front panel here, the arm goes in more than the back. So I didn't do anything for the back. So this is the back, this is the front. I'm going to set this aside, and then we'll go over to the sleeve. So guys, this is what I'm using for my sleeve. So basically I cut out this fabric here, folded it into 2, and then folded it again. So now it's into 4. And then make sure that when I check, my armhole fits in here. So my armhole is 20, right, divided by 2, that's going to be 10, right? So I have, if I open it up now, I have the 20. If I open it up here, the width is 20, and then if I fold it into 2, the width here is 10. So I have 2 of it here. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to come down here and mark. So as you can see, I don't want the sleeve to be full length like the picture. I'm using 3/4 sleeve. So I'm going to come down here, mark 4 inches, right? And then from this 4 inches here, so from this 4 inches here, I place my tape at this end and the other end, right? Place my tape that way. and then if you have a ruler, that's better. Mark a straight line from that end to this end, and then check the what measurement you have. So I have 11 inches from this point to this point. Divide it by 2. I have 5.5 here, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to mark like a curve up to this ½ inch here, a curve facing down, and then also mark another curve facing up. So this right here is my sleeve, right? So this is my sleeve here. So I'm going to cut this top part out now. So here is my sleeve now. So I'm going to notch this end, this top part here. And then the next thing you're going to do, remember, I'm going to leave it straight like this because it's supposed to be a puffy sleeve. So I'm going to leave it straight like this. If you don't want it too puffy, you might just go ahead and maybe trim out maybe about 1 inch here. Just trim out a little out of it. So you see, I've opened this up here. So this is it for my sleeve here. I'm going to just go ahead and fold. So whatever you decide to use as the length of your sleeve, remember to add 2 inches to it so that you can use the 2 inches to make a loop to pass the rope, right? Add 2 inches to it. So that's what I'm using here. So for me, I'm using about 19 inches here. Pants. So now I'm going to start cutting it. So first thing we are going to do is to fold it into 2, right? Fabric is open, we fold into 2. So guys, what you're going to do is your hip measurement divided by 4, right? So the hip measurement I'm working with is 48 divided by 4, that's 12. So your hip measurement divided by 4 plus 3.5 is what you're going to make sure that it fits into this width of your fabric here, right? So for me, that's about 15. So 12 is 48 divided, my hip measurement 48 divided by 4, that's 12, plus 3.5, that's 15.5. So 15.5 fits in here. So the 2 inches out of the 3.5 is for the crotch, and then 1 inch is for seam allowance, and then ½ an inch is for ease. So that's how I got the 3.5. So the first thing I'm going to do is to make sure that I have about ½ an inch on this end here. So I'm going to leave ½ an inch on this end here. So guys, you see, I've marked out what I'm going to use as my seam allowance here. If you know you will need up to 1 inch for your seam allowance, then if you want up to 1 inch to be inside of your cloth, then you might want to add about extra 1 inch to the seam allowance that you're going to be using. You understand? So instead of 3.5, you will now use 4.5, meaning 1 inch for each side of your seam allowance. So you see, but I used 1, so that means I'm using 0.5 for each of this, because 2.5, like if you have 1.5, 0.5 and another 0.5, that will give you 1 inch, right? So that's why I have 0.5 inch here for my seam allowance. So you see, the next thing I did was to check the length, right? The length I'm working with is 12. Before adding the ruffle at the end, I want the length to be 12 inches. That's from my waist to where I want the fitted part of this pant to be is 12, and then I added extra 1 inch to it, which is the for seam allowance, attaching this top part to the bodice of the dress, and then another ½ an inch to attach the ruffle to the end. So that's why I have 1 inch here, making it 13. But what I need is 12. So I've marked the line here. So that's why I have this line here. So the next thing we are going to mark now is to start from this mark that we've made here. I'm going to mark the 12 inches, which is the main measurement I'm working with. That's my hip measurement divided by 4 is 12. So I'm going to mark the 12 inches here. And then after that, remember I added, instead of the 12 inches, I'm going to make it 12.5 because I added ½ an inch for the seam allowance, right? So that half for the ease, not seam allowance. So the ½ an inch for the ease, I'm going to add it now. So instead of marking 12, I'm going to mark 12.5. But it's left for you, if you don't want to add the ease, then just use your measurement on the dots. That's the 12 inches or whatever you have. So you see, after marking it now, the next thing I'm going to mark is the crotch, right? That's plus the 2 inches that I added. You see, it falls in here now. So I've added the 2 inches. So guys, after marking the measurement that you have plus the ease, if you're using ease, the next thing you're going to do is to mark your crotch. So the crotch I'm working with is 11 inches. So how you're going to measure it is sit down on a rough surface, on a smooth surface and like a hard surface. Measure from your waist, like if you're sitting down this way, then you measure from your waist, right, down to your bum, like down here. That's where you're going to measure. down to the hard surface. That's how you're going to get it. That this is you sitting down, this is your back. You're going to measure from your waist down to that surface. So for me, I'm working with 11, so I'm going to mark 11 here. So you see, I'm going to mark 11 on this point here. So then after marking it, right, this line here goes down to this point here. After marking it, I'm supposed to have about 2.5 left here, so which is the crotch area. You see, 2.5. So I'm going to mark it here. And the next thing I'm going to do is my waist measurement, right? The waist measurement I'm working with is about so the waist measurement I'm working with is 38. 38 divided by 4, that's going to be 9.5, right? Then plus extra 1 inch for plus extra 1 inch for the darting, and then extra 1 inch for the ease, just like we did at the top part when we were cutting the bodice. We added 2 inches to it, right? So the 2 inches is going to make it about 11.5, and then we added half an inch for the ease, because remember when we're cutting the top part of the bodice, what we did was just come down at the waist, divide it by 4, and then added 2.5 to it. So that's the same measurement I'm bringing down here. So your waist measurement divided by 4 plus half an inch to it. So that's how I have this 12 here, right? So I'm going to mark the 12 here, connect it down to your hip, connect it down to the body of this here, and then you're going to add your half an inch for seam allowance now. So the half an inch for the seam allowance here, because your waist to hip is about 8 inches down here, right? So you're going to connect this with your waistline that you got, connect it and blend it down to this 8 inches. And then you're going to add half an inch for your seam allowance, or 1 inch for the seam allowance. Whatever measurement that you left here, for me, that was half an inch when I started it. So I'm going to add that same half an inch at the waist now, and then also blend it down to this line. So blend it down, going down to this line. So you see, this is what I'm working with now. So I'm going to go ahead and, so guys, before cutting it out, I'm also going to go ahead and add extra half an inch on this end here, like so that I can be able to join this part. So just trace out like half an inch here for your seam allowance on this side. So I'm just going to cut this out now. So guys, I've gone ahead and cut out this inner part, and you see I traced in about half an inch to use to join this here. But then when I come down to this part, I'm just going to blend it in, like start from the hip and then cut out the waist here, you see. And then I'm going to also open up this side. So you see this, the back panel is ready. The front panel is ready now. I've cut it out. So what you can do is to take this your front panel now. That's what we're going to use to cut the back panel. I folded my fabric again, and then I added my front panel here. As you can see, my fabric is folded into two. Make sure you have about 3 inches at the top and 3 inches by the side here, and then have enough, maybe about 2 inches on this side here. So 3 inches, 3 inches, and then 2 inches, so that you can accommodate all the seam allowances that you will need. So the next thing that we're going to do right now is to trace out your front panel on the back one. So you see, what I did here is that I can see where I marked out my seam allowance, and I can see my main line. So what I did is just keep it this way and try to trace out the main line, excluding the seam allowance. So you see, I've traced everything out, traced out this side, folded it this way, use my chalk to just keep on tracing and just trace out the main one, and then leave out the seam allowance from the front. So you see, this is what I'm working with right now. So what you're going to do is from the end of this front one, you're going to add 2 inches for the crotch of your back one, and then extra half an inch for seam allowance for the back one. So you see, that's 2.5. That's 2.5 from the edge of this here. So the edge is here, and then I added 2.5 from here. So I'm going to mark that now. This is the line here. So what you're going to do here is that, so guys, remember this part here now, this is the back panel. So what I did here is to remove this front panel, flip it over. So the measurement that you have here for me is 12, right? Remember how we got, this is supposed to be your waist measurement without the seam allowances. So this is your waist measurement divided by 4 plus extra 2.5 inches. That's 2.5. The extra 0.5 is because of your ease, right? So I have 12 inches for me here. So this 12 inches, I'm going to divide it by 2. The center is 6, right? And then I'm going to come in on this side here. And half of 6 is about 3 inches, right? So I'm going to mark my 3 inches here. And then after marking the 3 inches, the next thing I'm going to do is to connect my